Good, because we just started recording the show.
Hello, Scott. Welcome to Awaken Hidden
It's
Truth.
great to start it on laughter, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
How is everything?
I think you and I were talking a lot about we will not point fingers like some other people do, to their detriment, really. Out in the world, people often will operate to claim they're going to show the truth with people for their benefit, but they're really just fighting each other, competing with each other for money or power or fame. And when they do that, they're divided and conquered by an elite classified group on this planet who want them to operate that way. Keeps them controlled, keeps them thinking they're reaching lots of people when they're really not reaching a tiny fraction of 7 billion people on this planet who don't know anything about any of their work to this day. It could be 10 million people on the planet that know about Coast to Coast, for instance, or George Nuri, or any shows that have tried to put truth out mixed with deception and misdirection, because they'll put anybody on there, one side versus another. It's not that I don't respect these shows or their hosts, I do. But they are also working in a corporate world to promote products. When they do that, when they're trying to tell the truth to people, it often catches them up in selfish interest to the point that they no longer serve the purpose they claim they're serving. It's easy to divide and conquer people and keep them in doubt if you can keep them throwing stones at each other and not working together for the common good of all life. That's the reason I don't go to conferences anymore and go off on these little things, because the people in them are often competing with each other, which is not a service to the people that they're standing in front of, talking or whatever it is they're doing. They'll reach a few people. The biggest conferences on this planet reach a couple of thousand, might come there. Maybe it reaches a few thousand. There might be 10 million people on the planet that know about UFOs or that are more investigating into it. And the rest of the people on this earth, the majority, haven't even begun that process. Most of the people on this earth are ready to know that extraterrestrials exist, good and bad, and all the stuff in between. And what they know about the true history of our planet, the true history of the galaxy, which they do not know on this earth. It's been suppressed. They don't know it. If they did know it, this world and its people would be completely different right now. But if you can keep them from remembering it, then you can suppress them. So whenever anybody on earth, let's put it this way, throws stones towards people they do not know the first thing about, and they're throwing stones in a glass house, it's going to shatter their own house. Basic law of physics is every action, emotion, or thought that you put out, this is in the law of the physical universe now, and the astral universe, these motion and physical worlds. Every thought you put out or feeling creates an equal but opposite reaction in space-time. When people put out fear of the future and jealousy and hatred and anger and fighting for followers and all that kind of thing, it puts out a negative energy field because it's negative. And that comes back to them and undoes their life. It can give them disease. It can kill them. Nobody wants that. I certainly don't want that for anybody on this earth. My concern for people that are busy doing that is for their own good. That if they continue to do it, they're going to have some very hard lessons coming their way to learn better about how to respect all life, not just life on earth, all life. So I'll say that as just a general thing. I think, Terry, we talked about this. Probably the greatest challenge people on earth have is to step out in courage beyond everything they ever grew up with and leap into that which will help liberate them from subconscious terrorizing programs. And they need to discover how to do this as a conscious thing themselves with beings who can help them in this way. I'm not speaking about me directly, but the people I work with from many of the world systems and from other realities, master teachers from all over the multidimensional universe that I work with and that work with me. This is not made up or fabricated to get money out of people or to get followers or be famous. It's done purely to help change this world and save it from being annihilated, because the people that run the world today are suffering from subconscious programs they know they have and can't get rid of that would end this world. Unfortunately for the people on Earth today, we have never been alone in the universe, or the people on this planet would have blown this place up in a nuclear war many times over in the last 50 years. And every time they attempted to do it, it was stopped. Not from Earth, from beyond Earth. This is something that is very highly classified. It terrorizes the people in control of this planet because they want to keep the people from knowing about it, because they're not sure how they're going to come out in the wash with races from out there, good and bad. They made allegiances with people to get extraterrestrial technology they should never have made agreements with in the first place. I don't blame them, because I know what was done to them by beings they met with who were tyrants, and the misuse of technology they used on these people to get them to agree with them against their better judgment. Fortunately, beings have been coming here that are kind and very highly evolved, the majority of beings in the universe, and they've made inroads with classified and hidden government people to get them aware that they had made treaties with the wrong crowd. Hi, Starlight, you ready to go on a journey? Is that what you're saying? He always shows up right when we're ready.
Yeah, take him, Scott.
You better come up here, and you better get right up there. Okay, there he is. That's a signal that some friends of mine from out of town, off-world, are ready to go on a little journey with us. So we'll start that process in a moment. These things that we do have to do with helping the people on Earth understand that they are masters at putting their body in the trance state called sleep at night. The worst criminal, even the kindest person, knows how to put their body to sleep at night, and they don't even realize what's involved to be able to do that, because the brain isn't putting the body to sleep. The being that runs the body is doing that every night. And people on Earth have been manipulated one way or another, often before they were ever forced to be incarnated here with no memory, to put this body to sleep and leave it every night without being aware they're doing it. That's how tyrants control other beings. Doesn't mean they can suppress what the Atma, the true being, does, as far as it being not a body and can leave it, because beings do it every night. But people aren't brought up on this planet with any understanding or comprehension about how to bring back awareness of what they do when they're out of their body at night, every night. Because if they did, this planet would change overnight. So we start with what we have. I begin by getting people to understand that they're going to go into the trance state called sleep, the same thing they do every night, except because of my interaction with them telepathically and with friends who assist me in this, they're able to stay focused and aware. When the body goes into the trance state, they go on journeys with me outside of Earth, beyond Earth, into other realities. A person cannot make any progress being just grounded and focused on Earth with no awareness of what's beyond it. That's a trap. The capability of an individual Atma or being is the ability to perceive in multidimensional levels lives and purposes they're living beyond Earth, not just on Earth, but in other realities they've been made to forget all about. Once that starts to wake up in a person, it starts to be changed, the physical consciousness, even the brain and the nervous system of a person, to be able to handle higher faculties and the awareness and wisdom that goes with their proper use and utilization. It comes with the territory. So the waking up of higher faculties that have been suppressed through terrorizing fear programs that were placed around the being, not the body. Most people have that all wrong. The implants that cause people to forget and to be suppressed are not put under the skin or in the head or in the brain or the back of the neck. That was all developed on Earth and experimented on our own people because they wanted to find out how to undo what was done to them, the elite on this planet. But they weren't implanted with little chips. It's different than that. So when an individual on Earth begins to recover, knowing they aren't a body and never have been one, and that the human being that's in the image of the source itself, the highest level, is not this, but spherical, then they begin to make progress very quickly. Because they once knew it. It's like recovering something that's been squashed flat by something that was done to them, terrorizing, death, torture, whatever. And in programs added to that, stick them on Earth like a political prisoner, stuff them in a body with no memory, and just compel them to reincarnate over and over again with no memory of one life or another. And then people are taught that's God's will.
Scott, since you talk about reincarnate, I have a question from Liz Druin. She said, I am presently reading your books and they help a lot. What I want most of all is not to come back to Earth after my body passed on. How do I avoid this?
Know where you're going before your body passes away. I didn't hesitate to answer the question. It means my work is about helping people recover and actually go to places that they can go to when the body stops working. The fear of death goes. The fear of the future dissolves away. You meet people and things that you've been taught on Earth wrongly to be afraid of. Ooh, if I get out of my body, the devil will get me. No. What they don't realize is they've already been got by the devil or some negative tyrant being or race and put on Earth somewhere in its history with no memory of who or what they once were. And that needs to be recovered first before anyone can have any greater enlightenment. You have to know what you're doing in the grand multidimensional universe on all the different dimensional levels and be able to embrace and appreciate and respect all Atma's running bodies in the multidimensional universe in order to be free to play in it. You cannot go play in it if you're ignorant of all that. Because people would take their fear of the future and terror with them when the body dies. And they would create havoc and destruction in these higher heavens. So there can't be any way. You need to shut your mic off there, Perry, I think at this point. Getting some whistling and some feedback. Okay. Because we're recording this, we get a clean recording. If we don't have the interaction, sometimes there's feedback. But when you need to ask a question, or just turn your mic back on, and that's fine. We can start getting whistling and some stuff like that. That's just part of the internet. So if a person wants to not come back here, they can't do it by being afraid of coming back here. What do I mean by that? Fear is like a magnet. It draws a person to the thing they fear. So fear should not be used or indulged in at all, ever. No one should use their imagination to envision a negative future for themselves or this planet, because that will trap them here. Tyrants know that. The correct use of the creative imagination, let me define what the creative imagination actually is. In as far as a being goes, the being that runs a human body, that leaves it from one life to another, it can go into higher dimensions even while the body's alive. Anybody that thinks that you have to wait till this body dies to go to some heaven to know what truth is being lied to, not by people that mean it, but who themselves have been misdirected and misguided about what the purpose of living and being a human being is. It's not to live a life and go to some heaven. It's to live a life here and in the other planes and remember and know what it is and discover how to be a co-creator with that source. Because that's the purpose of us as beings. Ultimately, we're meant to co-create new ways of doing things with the very source behind all life itself. It has nothing to do with worshiping the source, or else you get a pitchfork and you're going to hell. No. There's no fear in the upper worlds, no negative nature. The upper worlds and the beings in it are changing to want to not destroy the lower dimensions as they've done before, rebuild them and stick everybody back in them again. No. It's to change the way they're run. And one of the things that has to happen is the illusion of the experiment of evil, or the conflict between good and bad, dark and light, in the lower dimensions, the 4 lower dimensions only. Etheric, mental, causal, astral, physical universes. And the 144 parallel dimensions in each one of them. It's a big place. There's a positive and negative stream that runs through from the void that splits off into 2 currents. It's woven around each other in harmony with a golden light around it. Beings in the lower dimensions, through being misled by tyrants claiming to be the source, who just want to suppress them, would create this positive and negative going through them and split it into 2 different things. The being, which is round and whole, begins to see positive good things for itself and negative destruction for the future. And they put out energy that's one energy and split it into 2 currents that are opposed to each other. That's like short-circuiting a battery. The energy goes into the ground and the person gets grounded to this earth. They can't use their higher faculties. You cannot use any higher faculties of creation working with positive and negative energies. They are misdirecting and misleading, always. They are meant to be held exterior of the being, woven together in harmony with another energy surrounding them, the hue itself, and then you create form without creating negative repercussions in space-time, without creating cause and effect, maya, illusion. That's very important. When beings begin to remember they once came from those worlds way above the void, before they started their long journey down here in incarnations in many levels, not just physical, they begin to recover 2 things. 1, they begin to remember what they once knew before the lower dimensions were created in space-time. Because the Atma was there. All Atmas. They're comprised of the very pure source of that energy itself, which is not nuclear, it's not molecules, it's not atoms. It supports and underlies and uplifts and holds everything up, in a sense, in the lower dimensions. Galaxies and planets and moons and all that stuff, the void of space. This dark matter that scientists on Earth look at, they know it's not dark matter. It just, with physical eyes, they see it as dark because their eyes aren't designed to see higher frequencies. It's really quite bright light that fills that black void of space between planets and galaxies. It connects everything together. We, as Atmas, the spherical form we are, has telepathic capability to connect right into that current and know things. The imagination is the ability of the Atma that runs a body, not the physical eyes or the brain, to see into these other realities, communicate with it, and beings that are free in it, and discover the purpose for existing, which is to co-create with them and the source itself. New ways of doing things that will be only of an uplifting benefit to all life. Only that. Not just life on Earth, it won't work that way. All life in all the levels. The being, not the body, is capable of understanding, comprehending, and co-creating with that. One brain, one body, not possible. The being that runs a physical body on Earth is also running a body in the astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes, divided, different heavens, you might say. And they're responsible for the bodies and lives they're living there as this being. And those beings are learning about how to master emotion or causation or mental thoughts or the subconscious, to master it. So nothing can be put into you from any source that you're not aware of, that's subconscious, that can control you. Our job is to become adepts or masters over the lower dimensions. And we have this innate ability in us as beings. We always have. Tyrants don't want people knowing this. They want them to be in fear and doubt about everything. Search for years, decades, most of their life for truth. They listen to one person on the internet. They listen to a radio show. You get a PhD classified scientist who knows the truth about extraterrestrials talking on a show, whistleblower. Then you get a PhD who graduated from some university that's never been classified and still works with theory and wonders if there's life on other planets. You put out both of those energies to people equally in the news and media, and you keep people who are looking for truth that way in doubt. They're never sure about anything. Higher faculties, freedom, consciousness, enlightenment, direct knowing perception, certainty, confidence, all that thing, getting in and out of your body. That energy field that supports all life is not positive and negative. And it will not work with anything that is of a negative emotional nature. Period. There are energies running through the lower dimensions that people draw energy from, and they can create positive and negative, good and bad, and blah, blah, blah. But the energy that's behind that, that supports it, when you start working with that, you get taken out of that karmic field of reincarnation. You start rising into a field of knowing, and the doubt and the negative emotions are put away, set aside, dropped like a lead brick. The being stops being tricked and hoodwinked into using its imagination for fear of the future in any way, shape, or form. Because as long as a being is afraid of the future or putting out a field in any way that's fearful or negative, they are not only reinforcing the trap here, but they're trapping themselves more deeply in the process. This is a fact. This is true. It cannot be denied by anybody. When a being starts putting the imagination, the ability to see in the multiverse, only out in life, here on this planet, or when they're out of their body every night with other beings, and they are, whether they know it or not, when they start doing it for the right reason, their life changes. They begin to be free of the influence of negative nature altogether. If people want to be free of that, they're never going to get that way by throwing stones behind people's backs in negative ways in any direction toward anyone. Because those stones are being thrown without their awareness in a glass house, and it'll just shatter the glass around the person's doing it. I don't care if they're classified, royal families. I don't care if they're people in the UFO community or the disclosure community. If they're busy fighting each other, somebody behind them is laughing because it's got them controlled and misdirected. Ineffective. Cannot work in fear and in truth at the same time. The two do not mix at all. They do not mix. Negative emotions, negative imagination does not mix with the use of the higher faculties of the Atma. The ability to leave the body, the ability to move and associate with beings that are kind and wonderful from other worlds and other dimensions and higher realities. If people want that, and they don't want to reincarnate on this earth again, then they have to become someone who co-creates deliberately new things for the good of all life, or they can't play out there. Just that simple. It has to be this way, or it'd be like setting free a planet of people on Earth that have no experience or little, don't remember who they are, taking them into some heaven or higher world and setting them loose to do what? Destroy everything with their fear and subconscious drives they take with them? That's not possible. Better to keep them recycling here till they break that cycle. So I want to make that clear.
I would recommend people to read your book, okay, to Sarah's agenda, to understand you wider and deeper, because your knowledge, your information is, I mean, I don't think that we can find anywhere, and to make people more understand. Here, read this, the basic to understand the whole thing, you know, and then they get more like awakening path, you know.
The book was written with the collaboration of beings not from Earth. First of all, I can state that as a fact. It is. And it is kind of, it's not a book written for entertainment. It's an interdimensional doorway. And it's written to be very visual. So when people go through it, they begin to see with their imagination like they were there, going through what Mark Sandfield or Ambassador Sean Rawl went through, and his cousin Moon Tarrant, or Janice Carter on Earth. You know, these are not people from Earth who were forced to incarnate in bodies here and all their former knowledge suppressed. This happened to everybody on this planet at one time or another. It is an unfolding journey about how they get free of something tyrants said they could never get free from, and how they go through that process. So it becomes a reflection into the Atma, the real person running the body, not the brain, not the ego, not what they grew up with in one lifetime here. The brain in this body and in the bodies of your listeners and everybody on Earth never grew up with any information about other life on other planets or other dimensions, because it's not taught here freely or openly from schools or governments at all. So why should they grow up understanding any of it? They should know when they're children. So that is a bridge that had to be built from out among the stars and other dimensions, so that people have a way to walk up this and gradually unfold these tight knots of subconscious amnesia where they don't remember. Because they don't remember because they're terrorized. That if they remember, the same thing will happen to them again that happened to them before they were forced to come here. It was not pleasant. So when they go through having the courage to confront what really happened, it becomes just a memory. It's not subconscious, doesn't affect the nervous system and misdirect people anymore. They become free of reacting to all the negative nature on this planet. You know what I'm talking about. You understand this.
Yes, and this book not only good for you, I mean, can be a precious gift, you know, to family and friends, to whoever you think that, you know, they are ready, you know. It's a very good book. I don't know. I don't say enough, Scott, but whoever read this book, they enjoy reading it and they cannot put it down.
I work with the primordial first sound behind all creation that beings who are advanced in other worlds and other realities work with every day, every moment of every day. If you want to travel around the multiverse in a ship or into other dimensions as the Atma leaving your body safely, you have to travel on the current itself, the primordial sound or force underlying everything, or you don't go anywhere. Each Atma is comprised of exactly the same energy as the source, the supreme being itself, identical, with the same faculties of creative ability as it, on a smaller scale, like a drop of ocean, pure water, in a mighty ocean of that light and sound. The hue never got created on this earth. It certainly wasn't created by me. It precedes the history of this planet and all life on it. It didn't come from the physical universe. It didn't originate in the emotional or astral plane. It came from worlds far beyond the void. And it's run through everything this whole time. The people in the lower dimensions have been made to forget all about how to connect with it. There's nothing of any negative nature whatsoever in the hue itself. Working with it can only bring and cross paths in a person's life with that which will liberate them from subconscious terror. Period. And it comes with its own kind of built-in protection that people would have to experience for themselves on this earth in order to know what I know for themselves. When a person discovers or remembers, they once knew what the hue was and how they interacted with it before this history of this world. before there were negative tyrant races in the stars at all, long before any of that. The new ray that I talk about in my work was not invented on this planet either, and it's moving and blended through the omnipresent first sound, first word behind all creation now. And it's changing things so that beings on earth like this and master adepts have been trying to liberate people for eons and not being successful for the most part, now have a way to do that more expediently and safely. And the only way people are going to find this out is when they actually exercise their higher faculties again and start getting them working, even while they're living on this planet. If I didn't really have a knowing, understanding that there's a certain protection that goes with this, that no negative being in or out of bodies, no misuse of extraterrestrial technology, no being of any negative nature or weapon could penetrate this field, even while you're living your life on this earth. That's a pretty big statement. The only way people are going to find out if it's true is because they start to exercise, get off their duff, and start to have the courage to exercise higher faculties. They cannot exercise those thinking out negative things and backbiting each other and throwing stones at everybody and just being negative and afraid of the future. Tyrants want them like that. Most people don't want to be like that anymore. I know most people in the classified arena don't want to keep lying to everybody about it. Generals too, they want to tell the truth. They're moving in that direction because there is energy coming to this planet far beyond the capability of anyone on this earth. And it's moving one way, and they know it's coming. So they're going to have to disclose for their own well-being. They're not going to be harmed. People on Earth aren't going to be harmed. People on Earth are, when they work with negative emotions, unknowingly, they're actually digging a hole in the ground for themselves. And they're using this ability as a being to drive negative creations up towards themselves. I don't want to see people do that. I really don't. My care for them, well, let's put it this way. I send out the hue, the new ray and the hue to all life on this planet 24 hours a day. I don't care what they say about me or who they are. They're being given the benefit of the doubt that they can change, that they can get up the courage to leap beyond the social norms of what they grew up with and bring to bear on this plane, on this planet, the awareness of the true being, the soul, the Atma, and have it become dominant over all negative things. Because the Atma has this ability. Once it starts moving in the right direction, that process of awakening cannot be reversed. It's one way.
Scott, can I start the second question for the show and the last question for today? From Linda Demers. What does it mean when I'm having nightmares? Often I take sleep aids so I don't have nightmares. What should I do? How do I face the fear?
Go into the hue. Don't sit around and just be the effect of it. Don't expect some savior to come by and wave a magic wand and just do it all for you. It won't work because you wouldn't respect yourself if you weren't able to conquer these things at some point on your own with the help of beings who can help you do that. For instance, if you start having nightmares, then go into the hue. You send the hue to the very thing you're afraid of. If it's a pain in the body, send it into that pain. If it's a nightmare, during the day on Earth, if you had a nightmare, rerun the nightmare from beginning to end. And in the middle of it, confront what's attacking you. Put a golden pyramid in there and watch it light up. Just do what I'm telling you for the good of all life in that realm, including the tyrants who are chasing you. Because when you do that, you become a co-creator with the source. And these manifesting of these pyramids is underway now throughout creation. They are devices. They are not made of matter. They only work one way. When you put that into that dream state, change that reality. Instead of always fighting something, instead of being the effect of being attacked, run the reel through your imagination. Put this pyramid in there. When you read the series in general, you understand what's inside that pyramid. You know what it's doing. and turn it on and walk away. You'll never have that nightmare again.
This is true. I did that too when I had nightmares, I said the hue and the pyramid. But Scott, there is some questions. People who start knowing hue and then they start practicing hue, and then they said once they start, they have pain here, ache there because of hue. What do you
There's nothing to do with the hue at all. There's nothing of any negative nature in the hue. The hue is not, it's the first half of the word human, for crying out loud. Human, woman. This did not get created on this planet. English did not get created on this planet. Galactic standard language between worlds did not get created on this planet. It wasn't invented here. It was imported here. That word, human, is a way that when people send out the hue, it can be done just imagine your imagination, not through your vocal cords. You can do it silently. But when you send it out, first, imagine someone you love and respect and you're grateful they're in your life. Person, place, or thing, but it needs to be genuine. It could be a savior. It could be anybody that makes you feel good inside when you first imagine it. It sets up a certain condition in the pineal gland in the center of the human brain and opens a doorway that goes beyond this earth. The being running that body, generally from above or behind it, from its white core, like that poster behind you have in the cupboard there, it connects to that. And then it connects into this first sound. This is what an Atma or soul really looks like, each individual. It isn't this. The first thing people need to do is start to remember what they are that is not a physical body and never has been one. Because that's what we are in the image of the source, not this. That's the first thing that helps people a great deal because they've been made to forget it. Not even back in Rome, before the history of what people call history, back 65 million years when the dinosaurs were made extinct, beings were coming to this world from other worlds where they evolved. Humans didn't evolve on Earth. None of the races here did. Most mammals and plant life did not evolve here either. They're brought here. What do you think there's such a profuse number of them here? Much was brought here from other worlds, especially after the poles flipped and destroyed all life on the planet. That process has been permanently stopped by people I associate with, beings who run the mechanics of the universe. So there won't be another golden age to iron age for this planet. Because every 100,000 years, the surface is wiped out. How can a planet evolve for hundreds of millions of years like other worlds if that happens? Earth was never a normal human planet. It never was. But it's destined to become one for the first time. And it's about time, if you ask me. Dreams are not made up in your brain. Some people can have a clear feeling. They go to bed at night and they're happy, and then they have this wonderful dream of flying in a physical body through the air, for instance. And then they come back in the morning and they go, wow, what a neat dream. And then they forget about it, like it was just a fantasy. Because they aren't trained growing up here to deal with these things properly. So they don't exercise higher faculties in order to bring back full awareness of what they do when they're out of their body every night. See, that's not normal. People think it is. It isn't. When a person begins to be consciously co-creating good things in negative environments, anything that you experience, dreams and life, and you start placing things there that begin to be good for all life, negative beings too, correcting all that. You put an energy field out through you into the world that cannot be penetrated by any negative nature from anywhere, on any level. My work and what I do is focused for the benefit of all life on this planet, but not just for Earth. There are many worlds on many levels that we work with. Earth is one of them. It has been a particularly difficult one to fix because the poles would flip here like clockwork every 100,000 years. Stop that first, then people can change. Give them the time and the space to do so. That's one of the things that had to be done that people on Earth are not even aware of in the UFO and disclosure community has even already been done. Little gray guys are not picking up people and abducting them anymore. They haven't for decades. And it's about time people started to become aware that something has changed in a constructive way. It doesn't mean that the people running the world and the mass of people there aren't misdirected subconsciously from programs, because they are. But it's not being influenced by negative ETs anymore. They already did their job. Now it has to be undone. People are putting out stuff that are afraid of reptilians and things being in bases underground on this planet. There were a few, never many. Not here anymore. They were sent home, gone, and not by people on Earth. The Earth and our solar system is quarantined. People have heard this before on the internet, but I don't think they understand what this means. It means that people on Earth, as misdirected subconsciously as they are not to remember much of anything, are not going to be allowed to go out in space in reverse engineered spacecraft or anything else and dance among the stars outside of our own solar system ever the way we are now on this planet. Because people will take their fears and subconscious drives out there in ships, and the first race or anybody that come along that looks different, they're going to fire first and ask questions later. There are races out there, huge, massive numbers of them collectively, that will not tolerate that. They're not going to kill people or harm people. They just neutralize the power on their ships or just put an energy barrier up they can't go through. They're not tyrants. They just don't want people to go out and play among the stars until they're prepared to be mature enough to do it in a loving, constructive manner. That's all. And if you were in their shoes, you would do the same thing. So you see, Earth has a destiny to play among the stars, but not the way we are now. That has to change first. And that is meant for all people and all life on this planet. All beings. It has to come about that way. You can't segregate the bad from the good and just not fix it. That's never worked in billions of years of galactic history, anywhere. Good guys go to battle and beat the bad guys. It sets up a repercussion in space-time. People call it karma or Maya. Law of physics. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction, and then sooner or later, the bad guys become the good guys and vice versa, and they're fighting each other later on. It's pointless. Nothing changes. What's underway now has to do with the retiring of an experiment that never worked in the lower dimensions of space and time. People refer to it as evil. Evil is anything that is put out or said or done that will prevent or trap or try to misdirect the Atma from knowing what its destiny in creation is. That's evil. Anything and everything that's put out in this world that keeps people from knowing who they are that isn't the physical body and how to co-create with beings on many worlds that travel the stars, that know how to get in and out of their bodies and yet have the technology to do that. You could consider that evil. It is that kind of thing that's being neutralized by this new ray in the hue. It only works one way in the lower dimensions now. And it's moving through the Milky Way galaxy and other dimensions to neutralize a very old experiment that never, ever did what it was originally designed to do. And that was to make the lower dimensions of time and space mirrors of the upper worlds beyond the void. That never got accomplished. Failed. Something else had to be brought into creation on the highest level to begin to change the way the lower worlds are without destroying them. Well, this is what's underway. These are just words. But when people start to work with a little bit of courage in the hue, they begin to remember its benevolent qualities, how it works and how it protects and how it unravels the subconscious knots. Because the destiny of all Atmas is to one day return to the source they came from with the inspiration and the consciousness to offer something there that will be of benefit to all life. It's not our purpose to go back there and say, gimme, gimme, gimme. That won't work. If people want to play among the stars in the physical universe and have the technology and ships and experts and cures for disease and all that stuff and live for 1,000 years in one body and don't age and all that, that's old technology out there. There are races out there I work with know how to do that easily. But they're not going to do it to people without their conscious free will. And what is true free will? It isn't what people on earth think they have. If they can't remember who they are as a being, not a body, and how to move around the universe, they aren't working with true free will. They need to recover that. And that's important. So let's go on a little journey. I would ask people to get rested, maybe sit in a chair, close their eyes, take a couple of deep breaths. And I'll be right back because something I have to do before we go on this journey real quick.
While we are waiting for Scott, maybe we can talk to Starlight. Hello, Starlight.
Thank you for your patience.
I was talking to Starlight.
Oh, he's quite right. The Atma that runs this little cat body goes in, even with me, into the higher worlds. Most people on earth wouldn't probably comprehend how that's possible, but it is. He's quite aware. We start one of these radio shows or one of the private guided sessions I do with you or some of the group people that's not on YouTube. It's not for the public. And he's always there. He comes up, gets on the chair, gets out of his body, and he goes with us. It's a lot of fun. So I will ask people to imagine someone they love and respect. They're grateful they're in their life, whatever that is. Take a couple deep breaths. And when you breathe out, just imagine all the fear of the future about anything. Put it aside on the bed, on the floor, in a little computer disk or card. And you're going to leave that with the physical body, which is going to go into the trance state called sleep. You do it every night, so don't think it's a big deal and difficult. It isn't. And all of you are experts at doing this every night. The difference is now you need to become aware of what it is you're doing when you leave the body, where you go, what you can see, what you can experience, and more importantly, what you can bring back to make the awareness of your life on earth a higher and more expanded, beneficial consciousness. The Atma is spherical, the real you. It has a white core and different layers of different color that cover the spectrum of light for different reasons. And then it has a kind of a golden energy around it. It's an electromagnetic field, you might call it, a shield in a way from coarse matter. The Atma is not made of anything nuclear. It's not atoms and protons and electrons. The body, yes. The Atma, the real you, no. It is energy, but not as it's yet understood on planet Earth. It's easy for any of us to imagine, like in daydreaming, standing by a waterfall or looking at a beautiful ocean scene or looking at a hummingbird or a blue jay or, smelling gardenias and lilacs or looking at flowers or green grass or moss under our feet. It's easy to do this because when people close their eyes and they get bored with life, they start daydreaming about something better. What they need to understand, would be good for them to understand, is that when they're imagining something like that, they're actually seeing it somewhere in creation, in a parallel dimension, on another planet, or somewhere on this earth. And they don't realize that's what they're doing. They think when they're looking out of a window, bored listening to someone giving a lecture, and they're looking out the window, their eyes are seeing what's out there in the trees and some plants in the sky, but they're imagining being somewhere else. The physical eyes are seeing the plants and the tree in the sky, but the being that's running the body is seeing what is out there that's different. So who or what is seeing the imagination out there? It's not the brain. A brain you grew up with on Earth has nothing in it about other worlds, at least in most people on Earth, or other dimensions, or how to get around them, or the wisdom to do it, because it was not programmed into this brain when you grew up with it in this body. So it has to be imported to this physical brain and body from elsewhere, where you have the capability of traveling, seeing, and experiencing. Imagine a beautiful waterfall, and you're standing beside it. It's cascading down. You look up. It's coming out of the cavern of an opening in a mountain. It's one single snow-capped mountain. The air is crystal blue. It's pure. When you breathe, you can feel the oxygen and the wind go right through your whole body, beyond the lungs. And when you breathe out, it comes right through you. You're in communication with the energy in this place. When you look out in the distance, you can see a beautiful ocean coming up to the shoreline down a brown 3-foot wide path going several miles down straight as an arrow to an emerald green beach. Who or what is seeing this is not the brain or the body, because that is going into the trance state we call sleep. This just means that you, the being, are causing the pineal gland in the center of the brain to secrete serotonin, make melatonin. These are chemicals which keep the body running on automatic, heart working, blood working, lungs breathing, and with a link to it telepathically from you, the being, and then you go on a journey and you leave it in this protected trance state. You do it every night. What we're doing differently here, because of my voice and because I'm doing this telepathically with you, being to being, from a pure energy connection that is not positive and negative, not from the lower worlds. And then we're moving into this journey to explore what it's like to be above the earth, to go to a parallel dimension on this earth where another planet Earth, same size as the one here, is different, or to go to another world out in space, or to get on a spaceship from friends from the Galactic Alliance. There are master teachers that work and move and ride on those ships with their personnel. It's not like people on Earth think it is. Or to go to a higher dimension, or to go up all the dimensions and cross deep and far, long into the great void until you come to the other side, because then there is many other realities higher than the void. There is what is called a pure positive energy there. It's not positive and negative. There's no illusion, no maya. You create cause, but no effect. It's not possible for you to step on anyone's toes there, because people do not and cannot bring any negative nature there. Negative emotions, fear, any of that stuff. Do not cross the void. That's what the void is there. That's why it's there. It takes a certain awareness of sound and light, of energy, to make the journey across that void. I always ask those who I trust and friends to go on this journey with me. And we have the light that's necessary and the understanding, and to know what to look for, what to visualize in these other worlds. The fact is, until you can imagine what it's like to be on another planet, to be on a ship with kind beings, very advanced, or to be in the higher worlds, beyond the void, you cannot go there. The omnipresent living first sound, the hue that's under everything, which has no negative nature whatsoever, only works with beings who create in it for the good of all life. If you want to go back home to where you came from, finish this journey, and go into mastery over negative things for good permanently, so you never have to incarnate on a world unconscious again, then you're going to have to do certain things to accomplish that you've never quite completed before. And you're going to need the people and friends and associates, highly trained master teachers who can help you do that, who are willing to help you do that, if you're willing to step forward with some courage and begin to awaken all you were made to forget. Be above your body, looking down on it. Same thing as imagining a beautiful waterfall. You just look down and see your body sitting there or lying there, wherever you are on earth listening to this show, this recording, this radio communication. And look at yourself from above with kindness. You can see your body there is breathing. It's in the trance state called sleep. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to be harmed. It's safe. And then be up above in the atmosphere, above where you live, maybe at 5,000 feet. If it's night, you'll see the stars. If it's daytime, you'll see the daylight, but you'll see the stars at the same time through the daylight. Because it's you, the real being, seeing it, not the physical limitations of physical eyes. You can see that there are a few other beings around you. And when you look at them, you see that they are spherical, beautiful, white cores, luminous, and they project an energy body out in front of them that looks human, floating in the air. So you can know if they're a man or a woman, elegant, trim, ageless. The beings that join us on these journeys are very evolved. They are now undertaking a journey themselves to help liberate people that don't remember who they are in ways that they never could before. So things are speeding up in this regard. Each of you on this journey will find that there is a man and a woman. We're talking about the Atma here now that have a gender of feminine or masculine, but they're really not bodies. The bodies they show you are on a planet or on a ship somewhere. And they're sitting right now, while other personnel run things, in a seat or on a cushion, and they've left their bodies to join us. And these beings are not from Earth. Find yourself in space above the planet Earth, in orbit. You can see the Earth with its polar ice caps and the continents you're familiar with, and the oceans. You can see the moon with its craters moving around the Earth. It does not turn on its axis. has no atmosphere to speak of. You can see the sun way off in the distance and the black void of space. And now, if you look and concentrate from the white core of your being, you see the black void of space turn suddenly white, bright, with a golden tinge to it. And it's everywhere, above you, below you, between stars, between the earth and the moon and the sun. It is that void of space people call dark matter that fills everything, even the black void of space between galaxies, between dimensions. It isn't really dark at all, and it's not made of matter, as scientists on Earth understand this. They know it's something that doesn't quite observe the law of physics, something that is behind everything, so they coined it, they call it the God particle, because what else could they do with it? They don't know how to access or what to do with it, but they know it's there. This is the medium of communication we connect into when we travel out of our bodies, when we meet with beings from other planets who know about this, who travel in ships among the stars, who do that for the sake of beings that are not that far along yet. They could also travel from one planet to Earth without ships. Bringing ships to Earth this way and being that advanced, they do it for the sake of people on Earth, to help work with them when they're out of their bodies at night, to help them confront their worst nightmares and fears, to help them co-creatively unravel that tight subconscious terror. Because that subconscious terror, if all the enlightenment what being ever had that was suppressed and it was suddenly thrust on a human body on Earth, the nervous system would shut down and your body would die. It hasn't been brought up to understand this or deal with it or channel it. It would short circuit things. So things have to be awoken in a way that gets the bodies on Earth capable of receiving memories and wisdom they once had. You're in space. When you look at the void of space, there's this white light moving through it with a gold tinge everywhere. And if you can feel it moving through the core of your being in a communication like a stream that moves unending, there's no restrictions. None. It's like you breathe in, it moves through you. You breathe out, it passes through you the other way. And it lights up some of the layers of your being. It is that medium energy that we travel on out of body. It is that medium of energy between stars, this dark matter that isn't dark, that must be utilized to go beyond the speed of light, to go through interdimensional doorways across galaxies and into other realities. There are craft and planets out there in the Milky Way galaxy alone, in this parallel dimension, the physical universe, that can traverse 144 different levels of different molecular time rates, parallel dimensions. Their organization is bigger than just planets in the universe people see with the Hubble telescope or with the shuttle, people using cameras and photographing deep space. It's on a number of levels. If people from Earth want to play in that and meet beings from all those levels, they got to step up, grow up. They have to have one world government here that's kind and benevolent, doesn't lie to people, made up of the most wise and kind and evolved beings. People will allow this when the time is right because it's good for everyone. People are on Earth today afraid of disclosing the truth about extraterrestrials, are getting the help they need now to make that disclosure possible in a safe way. This is how myself and my associates are going about this. We are not concerned about tyrant races out in the stars. Make no mistake about that. That has been dealt with. They weren't killed. We didn't go to war. Hasn't been a war in our galaxy in 500,000 years. People talk about it and say there's wars out there and battles. There isn't. There's no proof whatsoever that there's any wars going on out in space, because if there were, people on Earth saying it, and everyone else wouldn't even be alive right now. Now, but that doesn't mean there hasn't been a Cold War going on between tyrant races trying to capture slaves and implant people and stick them on Earth and do all kinds of stuff. That too is coming to a permanent end. You're floating in space looking at Earth. And then you can see a friend of mine hovering there as an Atma just like you. His name is Ambassador Torelli, and he's from the Seres race, S-E-R-E-S. They immortalized their physical bodies over 1 billion years ago. These beings were responsible for developing higher genetic forms like human and others that were developed to be able to handle the higher faculties and awareness of the Atma running them. And they did this and brought many races up to spacefaring capability in this galaxy and many others, both in the physical and astral worlds, before they vanished from the scene for a very long time, more or less to see what we would do with it. They are not tyrants. We get our genomes for human DNA on Earth from them. So do all the other races out in the stars. There's human DNA from the Seres and Greys and Nordics and reptilians and everything out there, because they help develop the forms, not just human, other forms as well. They're intelligent, that Atmas can run. They've recently returned to this scene and this galaxy and others to help to mentor the races to make this change in the retirement of evil as an experiment possible. It's being done away with. It's being replaced with an energy that actually works. What's important here, while you're floating in space, look around you. You'll see that there is a male and female Atma. They've chosen this by free will. Hovering beside you on this journey. They are kind. They are uplifting. You feel good with them. They're probably beings you've crossed paths with before. And they're going on this journey with us not to tower anything over you, but to learn from us. And we are learning from them. It's a co-creative situation. There are also 4 different master teachers surrounding Torellian. And then there's myself and Perry and others circling around them, and many, many other beings that have been invited on this journey from Earth and from other worlds. They are all here in the Atma form, the true form of being. When you look down on Earth now, you're going to see it suddenly shimmer and change. Now you're seeing an Earth that has no polar ice caps. Beautiful oceans. One big continent centered over the equator from hemisphere to hemisphere. No polar ice caps. Extends up about 1/3 of the way above the equator and down about 1/3 below it. And down below it on the bottom is a half-moon bay-shaped emerald green beach you can see glowing from space. In the next instant, find yourself hovering as an Atma, a spherical being of energy, beside this waterfall where we started this journey. And you look up and see this snow-capped mountain and this waterfall pouring out of a cavern opening 2/3 the way towards the summit. It's dropping thousands of feet down to a river that mingles its way through a blue-green forest trees surrounding a very large clear dome city covering 3 giant pyramids, golden-sided with quartz caps. And you can see landing pads, 3 of them on the left side of it, and galactic scout craft, 30 feet wide, with blue cleared kind of domes and 3 lakes, struts, parked there. And inside the dome, you can see a low curved ivory-colored dome near the bottom of the base of these 3 pyramids, and a lake in the center, and white roadways like marble. And there are beings walking inside that city. And you find yourself suddenly standing on a white marble pathway, many that wind through the countryside. And there's these beautiful trees that look like giant weeping willow trees with blue-green leaves that are glowing. And there's these birds perched in the trees, and they have long V-shaped split tails. And they look like a blue jay with big bulbous blue eyes wrapped around their forehead and two sets of bird wings. They hover like a hummingbird, but there are two sets of bird wings on their back, like a dragonfly, but these are birds. These are higher genetic forms of birds. And when you look above them, as they fly down from the trees and hover around all of us, there is an Atma hovering above each one of them. And they begin to sing. They have beautiful vocal cords. They will talk to each of you in the language you're familiar with and say hello, that you're welcome. Then you'll hear them telepathically say this in your being. They sing beautiful, all these levels, and then they go back to the trees. One of the beings that's approaching us on the white path, there's a being, an Atma hovering above him. He has pale blue skin, long, shiny black hair, slightly pointed ears like an elf, about 6 feet tall, and he holds up his hands and he has little webs between them. He is human. These are from the Oceanian race. They are from a world on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, third parallel dimension up from the Earth you're familiar with. Where you are with this dome city is on Earth, third dimension up, parallel dimension time rate, different time rate of molecular matter. And it's right in the same space where Earth is, but on a higher frequency. And you're standing in a dome that was built largely by the Oceanian race on this Earth. The air in this world and the water is pure. There are no pollutants of any kind. The moon, which you can see standing on this white marble path, you can suddenly be in space and see the moon from here, and you see that it is turning on its axis. It is atmosphere and water and land and lakes and rivers, 5 dome cities on the front and 1 on the back side. And it's turning on its axis, peacefully moving around this Earth that has no polar ice caps. This master adept teacher named Opelum comes up to you, holding up his hands, and he telepathically shares with you that on their world, they evolved on a world that is mostly water covered, small islands around the equator. And they can breathe underwater or on land. They got their genomes originally from the Say race also, conducting higher experimentation, creating higher genetic bodies for the Atma, the real you, to get into and run. They were never meant to be traps for the Atma. He's letting you know, because you can see him hovering above this body form he's showing you, that he is not trapped in a body and does not suffer from the illusion that he is one. You can see a being hover up beside him from the path, and he stops and hovers, hovering in the air. It's about 3 feet long from the root to his tail to the tip of his nose. And he has a pale kind of green skin, smooth, not wet, big bulbous blue eyes, a longer snout, and it's got a crease around it, so when he's just looking at it, it looks like he's amused about something. Strong arms and dexterous hands and feet like a human, and his tail from the root to the tip is glowing like crystal opal in sunlight. This is a silica-based creature that evolved on this planet Oceania, and it developed as an organic creature the ability to defy gravity. It's an anti-gravity organic being. And they're telepathic. He's not human, has a photographic memory, vocal cords, he can speak with you, has a love and dedication for his wife and kids, 2 of them grown now, than most people on Earth even understand. He is also a master adept teacher. His name is Etta. This is how we discover and learn to respect all life out there, and it's vast. And until we can do that on Earth, we will not be allowed to play among the stars by the races who are far more advanced than we are, for our own good. Earth is designated to become a spacefaring member of a great alliance of worlds. But first, it has to get people awake, out of fear, sane, working the higher faculties of the Atma through the bodies, and recovering from the terror of the future they now suffer from. Because nobody out there wants beings from Earth bringing that kind of stuff out there. Can't blame people on Earth for what happened to them, done to them without their consent, because it was done to them without their consent. Some God didn't do it to them. Some tyrant pretending to be God did it to them, for sure. That's one of the biggest illusions people have to get over on Earth. Fear of leaving your body, fear of death, fear of the future. These are artificially created negative emotional and mental image states that were implanted in people. They are not part of the Atma's normal nature. They are not part of normal human nature. The sooner people get this awakened in them, the better off they're going to be on any world, anywhere. Find yourself above this planet now, looking down on Earth with no polar ice caps, this beautiful big continent. You can see that it says Lemuri or Amu on it in golden letters. It's just for your benefit, and then it fades away. This is a planet Earth that has this continent on it that never sunk 100,000 years ago. The poles never flipped here. There has been a domed race. There have been beings inhabiting this domed city and others in this Earth from the Galactic Alliance, master adept teachers from all over the universe who congregate there to develop ways to change, in part, the way Earth is now. From there, they're going to use this Earth and that moon as a prototype to change Earth and the moon as we know it now, when the time is right. Earth and the moon as you see it and understand it now are not destined to remain like they are. Something happened in creation recently in the upper worlds that altered the destiny, the past prophesied destructive destiny of Earth, to something unexpected, different. As people begin to work with the hue, they're going to start becoming wise and aware of this fact within their own being. And I don't have to convince anyone of anything. They'll know it for themselves. I came to this world more than 60 years ago, many more than that, to begin this process when there wasn't a new ray in the hue. And that particular journey I was on was intercepted. And it took me many decades to get free of what was done to me so that I could begin this work in earnest now, in a safely protected, non-reversible manner for the benefit of everyone here. When you look at this Earth, you can see a vortex open in the black void of space, which now turns white, the golden tinge, because you're looking at it correctly. And it's like a horizontal whirling vortex of green-blue water that's like water, but it's light. It's moving in a perfect tunnel. And you move at Terrellian, Etta, Opelum, these men and women surrounding you, move through this tunnel as Atmas in a stream of light. And when you look out through the side of this tunnel, you can see the stars in space whizzing by you. You can hear a sound, the sound of the hue, made by millions of men and women's voices with perfect vocal cords. It sounds like hue on all these levels. Then it blends into one constant humming sound. And suddenly you come out the other end of it and you're hovering in this white realm of light and golden tinge near the planet Saturn with its ice rings. You are in our solar system near the planet Saturn. There's Torellian, we're circling around him. There are now 600 other beings in 3 concentric circles moving in that direction with us toward a long, mile-long cylindrical spaceship that is permanently, for now, hovering in a stationary orbit inside the ice rings of this planet. It is from the Galactic Alliance. It's called an Emerald Star Cruiser. It is about a mile long, has bridge control rooms on each end. It's designed to go through interdimensional doorways and cover great distances. This is one of the smaller ships. There are oval, horizontal, little observation windows all around the center circumference of this ship, all up and down its length. And we're going to suddenly find ourselves moving right through the hull, the center of it, as atmos, not matter, passing right through the metallic structure, which has a blue-gray sheen to it. And you're going to find yourself suddenly hovering inside a huge social meeting room. You can see the oval windows along the side. You can see the ice rings of Saturn, the stars of space, and suddenly you'll feel like you have a physical body that looks like you, perfectly healthy, about 36, mature adult, and you're standing in this room with hundreds of the ship's personnel from many world systems. And they're above you when you look up in this body form that is made of energy that looks like you. You see the Atma that is you hovering above it. Both are you. One is spherical energy. One is a body form so that others in the room who have body forms and Atmas hovering above them can relate to each other and see in general what each individual is like. You're going to see some of these people come up to you with snake-like skin, snake-like eyes, beautiful contours, not scaly, bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs, fingers, toes, the whole bit, and some with pale blue skin, some with violet eyes and red eyes and green, emerald green eyes, a little bit larger than human eyes on Earth. Lovely people, men and women, and they're smiling. They're very, very delighted to meet us. They are running this ship, and yet they are Atmas. They know, and they can see who we are, physically and spiritually. Each one of you on this trip will have a man and a woman from the ship's personnel of different races come up to you and greet you with a hand over their heart like this, or their chest, just slightly nod. And then they'll tell you their names, where they come from. If you have a difficulty at all hearing this, don't worry about it. You'll get it later. These are members of the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, and it makes up now half the worlds of this galaxy we live in, called the Milky Way. Several tyrant races are enclosed within their territory and are undergoing a process to be liberated from some conscious drives that make them diabolically evil. The other half of the Milky Way galaxy, you're going to see 2 people come into a room through a pyramid-shaped, golden lit-up hallway and walk up to all of us and stand. And we're going to clear a circle around them. They are 10 feet tall. They have long silver hair, and it looks like silver metal. And you can tell, you can reach out with your energy of your fingers, and it's soft. They have violet eyes, pointed ears like an elf, longer necks and longer fingers, a little bit longer legs than people on Earth, but perfectly proportioned. Elegant little gowns. And they're talking to you to let you know that they are humans from a world called Zeontranamus. They're from a Zeontranamus race from a planet called Zeontranamun 1. It's on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. It is a planet 4 times larger than Earth. It has domed cities on it and beautiful nature. Some of these birds with these long V-shaped split tails are there. And this man and woman, who appear to be about 36, but ancient, are there because they represent an organization of worlds that covers the other half of the Milky Way galaxy, and they've recently done this. So you've got 2 benevolent world systems that have recently joined forces, and the experiment of evil is on its way out. The body forms they're showing you are on this ship. They were teleported here. The forms you're seeing, and you see the atmas above them, a little bit brighter, a little bit, maybe teeny bit larger than what we are, but atmas just the same. They're telling you that the body forms they're running are 3.5 million years old, unchanged. But that's only possible because of the higher science they have, and because they are atmas and know it. They do not believe they are bodies. They aren't stuck in the illusion of that. So the energy from the atma can sustain those bodies in any condition they wish, as long as they're doing what they're doing for the good of all life, which they are. Then you'll see them simply vanish. They've gone back to that planet. These beings also station forms in the planes above here, above the physical universe, as teachers. The commanders of the ship, a man and a woman who look to be about the same age, maybe 40, beautiful, human, a little bit bigger eyes than humans on Earth, are welcoming you to this ship. They know you've come here in the Atma form. You can see the Atma hovering above their heads too. They are telepathic. Beings that are normal use 100% of the 100% of the brain that's been developed within those bodies. People on Earth are told they use 6 to 10%. The reason for that is because certain genomes, over 1 billion of them, on the DNA of humans on Earth have been turned off, their switches, through the misuse of science. That means that if you live 80 years, if you're lucky, or 100, you should live 1,000 or more. On normal human worlds, they live up to 10,000. So something was done to the human population long ago, brought to Earth as slaves in one scenario or another, in which case certain genomes that would make you a threat to a tyrant race are shut down. Photographic memory becomes intuition. This is all reversible under the right conditions. This is so that all of you understand what is possible as the Atma. And you find this commander and his wife simply dissolve their physical bodies right up into the Atmas hovering above them to show you what's possible. Turelian, this is a big chamber on this ship, is standing 18 feet tall, physical form with long blonde hair, beautiful blue eyes bigger than humans on Earth, pointed ears, in a tunic kind of gown with sandals, looks like a Greek god. And there hovering above him is an Atma. You can go up and touch the hem of his robe or his gown. You know, you can touch his hand. It's a big hand. But you can feel that it's a physical presence. He's manifested. And then you see the body turn kind of silver gold light and get moved up into the Atma hovering above it and in through the white core of his being and stored out into a blue area, a blue energy field. In one single teardrop shape, it gets stored there. That's true immortalization of the physical form. Whenever they need a body to manifest, for whatever reason, they just manifest it. And then when they're done using it, unmanifest it. Now you're up above this ship, outside of it in space, with Turelian, myself, Perry, and others. Master adept teachers like Opelum, one called Master Ramu, is holding a crystal staff of quartz with an Ankh symbol, the eye of an Ankh with a cross on top. It's a device. And you can see his body out in front of the Atma that he is, so you know what he looks like, because he has a physical body, often stationed on Earth, in that parallel dimension, in that domed city. There is a number of other adepts here, a number of women adepts too. One is from India, has an India-looking body, and one is blonde, long honey blonde hair. And these beings are master adept teachers. They do not put themselves above others. They are there, when asked, to help people unravel the tight knot of their subconscious misdirected programming, to undo it. So if you ask them for help, they will provide it for you when you're out of your body at night, to gradually get this awareness awoken in you on Earth. And it can move rather rapidly once you start using the imagination properly. You look down and you can see the planet with no polar ice caps. You can see that half-moon base-shaped emerald glowing beach all the way down there. And suddenly you find yourself hovering all the way down on the planet above this beach. And you can feel your feet, bare feet, sinking into this emerald green sand that's glowing with a glow of about a foot of green light. And it rushes up your legs, goes into the white core of your being, hovering above this body. The body then dissolves, goes into that white core, and that green energy gets moved out into the green energy field that surrounds you and plugged into a teardrop there. This green energy is a gift from the Zeontranaman one planet, the two people you met, the long silver hair. And it's about recall and remembering. And then you see Terrellian and myself move in a circle, and you see the Earth appear before you. That's the Earth you're used to, with the polar ice caps and the barren moon with the craters. And then you find yourself hovering with this same group of beings surrounding you at about 5,000 feet in the atmosphere above where your body is on Earth. And you remain there with these beings. And then you find yourself, another aspect of yourself, that's spherical, looks identical, hovering above your physical body on Earth, about by the ceiling from wherever you are, smiling kindly down on that form. It's in the trance state called sleep, and you can see it sending a beam of this green energy down in the top of your head, into the brain, through the pineal gland, out through the body, out into the world. It connects to 3 pyramids, 2 on the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans, golden-sided, quartz-capped, and 1 inside a mountain in Tibet, in the Himalayas, rather. And it connects inside them, and then it shot out the tops, and it envelops the planet, and then goes out into space in every direction. This is because this energy is for your benefit to remember, but it must pass through you freely, by your own free will, to be of benefit to others in all life as well. This is so you can remember this experience. When you're ready, open your eyes.
More people joining us.
Okay? More people. Always.
Yeah, great.
There's more than I even described, but we got to keep it to some kind of practical level, so it doesn't boggle people's minds on Earth. If people try to figure this stuff out with their brain they grew up with on Earth, they will not be able to do it. Better to go back into this experience. You'll put it on your YouTube channel. They can play it back when they're quiet, when it's a time they will not be disturbed, and go through the entire experience again. And go through it and get the details of it. And so that this body on Earth can receive that experience. It will turn on the brain cells and get it working on 100% instead of 6 to 10, that kind of thing. They need to experience it for themselves.
Yeah.
So I'll leave them with that, and also say pleasant dreams and good journeys out of your bodies. You're going to go out. You go out every night, so you might as well be conscious of what you're doing from now on as much as you can. So Perry, is there anything else you want to say or ask from your...
No, just wish everybody would read this book. It would be very helpful.
There's a special technique section in the back of the Sayre's Agenda book that's designed 30 different techniques, 29. For the prologue, no, 30. One for the prologue and one for each chapter, 29 chapters. They're designed to help people work with the hues so that if they have a dream at night, or they're on a ship, or they have something profound happening in the day on Earth, and it's uplifting, but they don't quite figure it out, you go to the chapter in the book after you've read it that most represents the revealed hidden truth relative to the experience you just had. And you do the technique for that chapter. Read a couple paragraphs and then do the technique during the day, and particularly before you go to bed at night. You do not want to take any fear of the future into your out-of-body state at night. Leave it behind. Because in reality, as the Atma, to go being with these beings, you can't take fear of the future with you. You leave it behind, shut down on Earth with the body that's safe. And then when you come back from the experience, you wake it up and you'll take those things back on and have to deal with them and master them. So I'll leave everybody with that then.
Okay, thank you so much, Scott. We see you again next week, okay?
Okay, then I'll stop the recording and say good night.